Okay, that's all.
Hi, this is Anna Roblin. I'm 5D03, and we're having our next SMD meeting October 2nd from 6:30 to 8. That's a Monday, and we're hoping to be able to have it at Joe Cole, but it's not confirmed yet. There will be ASL interpretation, and everyone from other SMDs is welcome as well. We're going to have another presentation on historic designation, this time by an ANC commissioner, Ebony Payne from Kingman Park, which just recently obtained historic designation. Also, I'm working on trying to get a series of Know Your Rights presentations. I want to get like 4 of them lined up maybe, and then I'll advertise them together so people can have all the dates. They'll be at like regular intervals. So I've been working on that. And I also want to have some other kind of special meetings, like probably at Joe Cole, sometimes at Trinidad Rec. For instance, just invite someone from DPW for a whole hour, from sweep. Someone has said that they would do that for us, and maybe have a whole hour for VI presentation. So I'm looking at putting that together soon. And I'm trying to do a safety working group using health-based approaches. If you're interested in any, I have a bunch of working groups, and 5D has 4 committees. So if you're interested in any kind of working group or committee, email or call me. I'm at 202-651-0581 and 5D03@anc.dc.gov. And I can get you that information, and I'll put this in the chat. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Commissioner Cobb, 5D04. Just a few things. First, if you haven't noticed, there are crews tearing up the streets to install, I believe it's new gas lines throughout central Trinidad around Penn and Queen. So I just ask for your patience there. I know it's inconvenient, but it'll be for the better. Second, Trinidad, in case you haven't seen the many signs around the neighborhood, Trinidad now has a farmer's market Sunday mornings. The first one happened this past Sunday, and despite the rain, it was very well attended. It was nice to see people, so I hope I'll see some of you out there. And finally, I am working with DDOT and the council member's office to do a walkthrough of Montello Avenue with other Trinidad commissioners. We know that speeding and traffic has always been a huge issue on Montello Avenue, and we have been working for years to get things fixed. We're starting to get pushback from DDOT, who are giving excuses why they don't want to do anything, but we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep fighting. And so I will provide details about that walkthrough once I have it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. 5D05 is the northern end of Trinidad, which touches Mount Olivet Road up until Holbrook Terrace, 16th Street, including the Trinidad Rec Center, as well as some of businesses that are in the area next to Mount Olivet Shopping Center in Ivy City. It's been pretty busy this summer, specifically August and September. I do want to take 31 seconds of everyone's time tonight, out of respect for one of the youth that was an attendee of our boxing gym off of Mount Olivet. He was shot and killed last week off of Rhode Island Avenue. So I'll just ask for a moment of silence. As we work to get a safer area here in South Ward 5 and a lot in my SMD, because it's a hotbed for a lot of different things, we're trying different approaches, and one of them is working together with our only civic association in South Ward 5, which currently is the Langston Civic Association, to beautify the boxing gym. And we finally, we have a muralist that'll be working on the rendition and the mural on the boxing gym. And hopefully we can use that space to help some of this youth that's dealing with some of these sad situations in our city. Um, Aside from that, we're working on putting residential reserve parking on Meigs and part of West Virginia Avenue. And we do have this Saturday at the same boxing gym that I was referencing at 1216 Mount Olivet Road. We'll be holding our first trash committee meeting at 11 o'clock. So if you're interested in beautifying the area, really tackling this trash issue on different scales, whether it's illegal dumping, rat infestations, or drunkards or winos just hanging out in specific areas they shouldn't be and is just making it worse, please join the conversation. So feel free to reach out to me if you're interested. We did send an email with the roll-off day for Ivy City as well, which is occurring around the same time. So it looks like a lot of us are getting our hands dirty this Saturday. But other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at the email address below. 5D06. Does anyone see Commissioner Henderson?
I do not see her.
Okay. We'll figure out what's going on there. 5D07.
Thank you. Let me first apologize. I had some technical difficulties starting out, so I do apologize for dropping off and back on. Just a couple of updates. I have received a number of emails from constituents who are located in and around the 800 block of Bladensburg, particularly the back alley from Bladensburg. I hear your cry about the dump and the mess that alley is, and it's presenting. I've been on a call. Well, I've been in an email exchange with Commander Altieri and also Captain Murrell, and we have come up with some type of plan for patrolling the area, having more presence there. Myself and a number of agencies, we're trying to put together a resource walk, and not just necessarily just a resource station, but a walk in that area, because I've gotten a number of complaints about what's going on there. And so I just want the constituents and neighbors to know in that area that I hear your cries, and we are definitely doing all that we can to get some type of relief for you all over there. Second, Bennett Place and 19th Street, Northeast. I've gotten a number of calls and complaints about the chair community that's sitting out, and now it's gotten to the point that some of these individuals who are sitting on the corners, they are using residents or citizens' addresses to order food, and the food is arriving on these people's porches, and then they're coming and walking into these people's yards and then intercepting their food. We can't have that. And so I've received video from a number of the neighbors there who has shown me where DoorDash has walked up on their porch, and then these guys will be walking down the sidewalk and say, oh no, that's supposed to go to us, not there. And so this is a major problem, and it's a very big concern for me as well. And so I am also speaking with MPD about this matter. I want you all to know that we will not have this. This is unacceptable. And so as soon as I can get some detail on how we're going to operate in this posture, I will be able to release as much as I can about that matter. There's a street light that's out on 19th Street that I've gotten a number of calls about. I'm working with DDOT now. They've come out, they've done an investigation. Initially, DDOT told me that we never had a street light on 19th Street in this particular area. Thankfully, there were before and after pictures. And so now that I've gone back and spoken with DDOT, they've now said that, okay, the light is there. They're going to send a team out to investigate and see why the light is not working. So I'm waiting to get that report back. But that's another thing that's on my agenda that I intend to have some type of relief for you all pretty soon. And then finally, well, next to final, Washington Gas is in the process of updating gas lines. I think one of the commissioners have already spoken about this, but particularly on Florida Avenue and H Street Northeast, they are requesting that they be able to do night work beginning October the 16th through November the 6th. And this night work would take place on Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. and it will go until 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm not inclined to support this, but I do want to make this a public information at this point, give this information out to the public. So I'm asking for anyone who's impacted by any of the work that's being done on Florida Avenue Northeast and H Street Northeast, if you would please email me. I've been in talks with Washington Gas about this matter, and I have to give them some type of support or an up or down vote, or me being in favor of this within the next coming days. And so I'm putting this out for the public to please write to me and let me know what your feelings are about this. Me personally, I just don't like to interrupt folks' Sunday evenings, and especially going into the early mornings of Monday. But again, I'll reserve my feelings about this to those who are individually and directly impacted by this. And then finally, I'll be able to have the flyer at our next meeting on October 31st. In my SMD, we will be having a fall harvest, and it'll just be a time for the children to come out and trick or treat in a safe environment. I'm working with Commander Arteri, with DDOT to get the street blocked. And I'm going to invite all of you all to come out and have children from your areas to come as well. But that's going to be on October 31st, and it's going to be from 6 to 8:30. And I'll have more information at our next public meeting, our in-person public meeting. Thank you so much. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. 5D08.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all. A couple of quick things. One is 17th Street was recently repaved in the area between Mount Olivet and Maryland Avenue. And I've heard from some folks with concerns that some of the crosswalks and other traffic lines have not yet been repainted on 17th. So I am trying to see where DDOT stands on that and why there's a delay in restoring those high visibility crosswalks in particular to help with crossing 17th Street. So I will share more as I learn more about that. Outside of that, there is not a whole lot of particular note to share regarding 5D08. One thing I did want to mention, I know I'm sure that Oliver Stout will mention this too, but I know Councilmember Parker's office has been trying to give away tickets to the Nationals game tomorrow night for Ward 5 Day. So I did want to encourage any residents who are interested in attending to connect with the council member's office. I believe Councilmember Parker's throwing out the first pitch, so might be a fun thing to attend. That is it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just double checking if Commissioner Henderson came back in. No creo. Okay, we'll keep moving. Moving forward with the agenda, we have our public safety report. I believe we have a couple folks, or maybe just one person, sorry, from the 5th District today. Just a second. I think we have Lieutenant Sheldon. Are they?
He's there.
Okay, perfect.
He was.
Lieutenant
Yeah.
Sheldon,
I'm here.
how you doing, kind sir?
Good. It's good to be here with everybody. I'm kind of new to your meeting, so I just want to take a second and introduce myself. I'm a 25-year member with the Metropolitan Police Department. I started off in the 6th District and served also at Major Narcotics as an officer. And I served at the 1st District and Major Narcotics as a sergeant. I was promoted on September 16th, 2016 to lieutenant, and I haven't left the 5th District. I like it here. It's a great place to work at. I like the interaction with the community. You have some great officers that work at my district, and I'm here to help. So I'm being new to this meeting. I don't necessarily know what you all expect. I do have updated crime stats. If you could fill me in on what Captain Merrill normally does.
Yeah, if you can just give us the crime stats and then give us an opportunity to maybe ask or allow you to follow up with us later with some specific matters that happen.
Okay, so I know it's going to get monotonous, but I'll read them down. I believe the 3 PSAs that are impacted by y'all is 501, 506, and 506, which is my PSA in the Trinidad area, and 507. So
And I'm sorry, Lieutenant, not to cut you off, but can you tell us what areas those which PSAs those are and what areas they cover again?
sure. So PSA 501 is the Union Market area. So I think a small sliver of 501, but it's incorporated into it. Unfortunately, I know these don't overlap in a significant way, but so 506 would be considered the Trinidad and Ivy City area. And then 507 would be everything east of Bladensburg Road, bounded by, I think it's M Street to like the D Street. I think it's that's the best way to describe it.
Perfect.
So other than that, I guess I'll rattle down some of the crime stats. So for 501, remember the Union Market, these stats are for the entire PSA. So it might be indicative of all of Union Market. I usually participate in the bi-weekly meeting with the Union Market folks. So anyway, so the to start off with our FBI mandated reported crime stats, 501, we had last year we had 3 homicides, this year 2. It's a decrease of 33%. Sex assaults, we went from 9 to 4. It's a decrease of 56%. Assault with a deadly weapon, which can be any kind of deadly weapon, increased from 19 to 25, which is 32% increase. Our robberies drastically increased from 41 to 104. That's a 154% increase, which is going to be consistent with the city and the other patrol service areas that I will speak about. So, and then the total, the total violent crime is increased 88% under those metrics. The burglaries have decreased 46% from 26 to 14. The motor vehicle theft has increased 42%, which is from 166 to 236. Now, one trend we've seen with the motor vehicle theft is they're used in concert with these robberies sprees that happen all over the city. That's why we're seeing, in my belief, why we're seeing an increase in motor vehicle theft. Theft from autos went down from, which is not a normally stat you hear goes down, but it did go down from 222 to 188, 15%. Thefts are 254 last year. This year was 320. Excuse me, that's a 26% increase. So that's a grand total increase of 13% for that patrol service area. Does anyone from 501 have any questions regarding any crimes in that area? The Union Market area? Okay. 506, my PSA, we've seen a 25% decrease in homicides. It went from 4 last year, 3 this year. Sex assaults have gone from 7 last year, 2 this year, decrease of 71%. Assault with deadly weapons has gone down 50%, 48 to 24. Our robberies have increased 47%, which is pretty low for the trend in the city, but it's from 32 to 47. A total increase of violent crime of decrease of 16%. Our property crimes, our burglaries went from 38 to 20, which is a decrease in 47%. Motor vehicle theft went from last year 57, this year's 134. So 135% increase. Theft from auto last year 104 to 92, which is a 12% decrease, sorry. Theft went up 6%. Last year we had 179, and this year we had 189. And arsons, last year we had 1, this year we had 0. So that's obviously a 100% decrease. So we've had a plus of a 15% increase in crime in property crime. The grand total, all crime in general, is up 9% in 506. Is there any specific questions to 506, or do you want me to just keep on go into the next patrol service area.
Since you're specific to 506, we had a couple. I know the summer is pretty much coming to an end, especially with the weather breaking right now.
Mhm.
But we had a lot of block parties this summer, and I don't know if you could share your experience. It sounds like you've been in some pretty heavy, seriously heavy districts. You said six first and now fifth. What does MPD recommend to residents in terms of their concerns when very large groups of people start to convene?
So when you see the party starting, call us immediately. Call 911. If you don't get a fast response, then call the 5D watch commander. I can provide that number for you. If I think probably everyone has it, but if you need it, I can provide it to you.
And I mean, I know the answer to these questions, but I just want you to come from an officer, a lieutenant. Why call immediately? Why not
Okay.
let them enjoy their time? But then, once it gets bad, loud noise, heavy bottles crashing, why call immediately compared to just let them see if it, fizzle out or something?
No, thank you for getting me to expand on my answer. I appreciate it. So in order to start, when it starts early, there are a few people there, right? They're anywhere from 2 to 10 usually, and if we can get a hold of it, then it's a whole lot easier than when it's 200, 100, like on I think it was Neal Street. We had a huge problem this summer with parties that got out of control, and to be quite direct, we can't do anything about it when it gets too big. As far as anything about it, I should say, we can try to do things to mitigate it, but with my complement of officers that I have in the section, we can't take 100 people out of a block with 20 officers. It's just not. It's the law of greater masses at that point, and we're going to have 12 injured officers who won't return to work for a while.
We had a lot of those block parties pop up a lot on Rom Street this summer, and I forget who from the 5th district just explained pretty much what you said. Don't wait till the groups get big to the point where we can't do anything. If it's still small, and I think a number that he referenced was 5. I think I'll go with 7.
Okay.
If you see groups larger than that, and it's probably you as a neighbor who lives there, sleeps there, eats there, does everything there, probably what's going to happen, then go ahead and make a call, and let MPD address it. And I just want to reiterate to some folks, don't get upset if it just takes a little while. I mean, you probably can say it, Lieutenant, but I know for a fact y'all are short-staffed. So
It's no
it it just takes maybe an hour longer probably on some certain matters compared to what you're dealing with. So I just want to address that for 506.
Yeah, and some nights are heavier than others. One thing we've been trying to be a little more efficient with is dealing with DPW and taking out some of the grills or the area, what do you call them, like the bonfire type devices what people put out there. The grills are important to get rid of. We've been trying to do that, and some of the memorials that come up after a homicide, and it gets a little out of control. So we're trying to get rid of those. If you see something in your PSA, you could email me, regardless of your PSA, and I'll help out working with my partners.
Thank you. And our final PSA, so we can get you out of here and get you back to work.
Yeah, back to home. I'm home tonight.
Oh, okay.
I'm off, but so my last is 507. We had a 40% decrease in homicides. It went from 10 to 6. Our sex abuse sex abuse cases went from 6 to 1. That's a 83% decrease. Assault with deadly weapons went from 50 to 54, so we have an 8% increase. Robberies went from 42 to 58. That's a 38% increase. Excuse me, with a grand total of 10% increase. So our burglaries went from 29 and stayed at 29. Motor vehicle theft went from 58 to 139, so that's 140% increase. Theft from auto went from 70 to 83. It's a 19% increase. Theft went from 175 to 278. It's a 59% increase. So it's a total property crime increase of 59%. And the total for PSA 507 is an increase of 47%, which I think a lot of those are tied to the motor vehicle theft and the regular theft increase. But you know, I think seeing a 40% decrease in homicides is a statistic I like to see. Any other questions for 507 I could help out with?
Commissioner Rob, you had a question? I'm sorry, Commissioner McCollum. Did you have a question, Rob? Sorry.
I did, thanks, Lieutenant Sheldon. What was that number you were gonna give us? Cause I don't have it, in case 911 doesn't come fast.
Oh yeah, let me get it on my phone. Hold on, if you give me some 1 second here.
Thank you.
It's so it's 202 327 4392. And I'd also like to give out my information while everyone has their pens out. My email is pretty easy. It's peter.sheldon@dc.gov. And my work phone is 202 270 1107.
270-1107.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And
I'm sorry, what was the number, the 327 number of who exactly again?
So that's the 5th District Watch Commander. We change every 8 hours watch commanders. It's either a lieutenant or a captain. I'm usually it during the day. I work the day shift from 4 to 2. So I'm usually the watch during the week, at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McCollum?
Yeah, thank you. Lieutenant Sheldon, thank you for your service. Really appreciate it. I think we did get to bump into each other at the Washington Night Out. So thank you for being here and thank you for your service. I just have a couple of questions real quick. I just need to ask publicly because, you know, a lot of my constituents are asking me. And specifically now that I know that crime has increased 47% over in 5DL7, with everything being driven by by data, we've constantly been told that having more presence and having more patrol, it's just not easy to do because of the shortage. And so I just like to know, is there any type of rethinking of that now, particularly in this area, but certainly for all of 5D, as it relates to more police presence coming to some of the corners and just kind of sitting out, if nothing but to finish up a police. You know, can we see more of that now, considering that these numbers are up?
So I'd like to say it's going to be a day-to-day variation because really a lot of our patrol officers, unfortunately, have to respond to radio assignments, and that takes up a huge chunk of their time. And I would, you know, it's a weird point in my career. I've never seen our numbers so low, and I think this is something that the ANC and the citizens should revisit. You know, what are requirements for police officers right now? I think right now 60 college credits is a requirement. Some of the smartest people I know and are armed with grit, determination, street smarts do not have any college credits. I celebrate education. I'm working on my second master's degree right now. So, I mean, I think as a community, you might want to rethink, you know, what do we need? You know, we need officers and we can't supply them, and that needs to be addressed. Because it's unacceptable for some of the behavior that I see on the corners. I mean, I know you all see it's unacceptable to you too.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a very cavalier attitude shift to law enforcement too, which I don't particularly appreciate either. I'm talking about people on the streets that are have negative interactions.
No, I agree
Well,
with you about that, and I thank you for that. So I don't know if you heard me when I was mentioning earlier about the 800 block of Bladensburg and that alleyway that's behind that liquor store, between the package store and the convenience store. A lot of the residents in that new building, they're kind of concerned when they come through, they can't get through sometimes. And so I've been talking with Commander Arcari and Captain Miro about possibly doing a couple of walks there. And so I wanted to know if we could talk offline about trying to get one of those scheduled pretty soon. And the other thing is, as I mentioned during my talk about these individuals who are sitting on corners now, and they're using folks' addresses to now order food and order things up to their door fronts. What are some of the things that you can recommend that we could, that we could tell these constituents or that they could be doing? Because a couple of them, I've asked them to call the police, but they're saying that the police are not showing up. And I guess it's because it's not a major crime, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a new one to me, but the food, let me get, so I have the two stores, right? You said it's a packaging store, and what's the other store?
It's so it's between the 7-Eleven and the package store.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely talk offline and arrange a community walk. As far as citizens having food delivered to their house, that's a new one to me, but that's I would say similar to with these parties, you see people gather up, call us. Usually when we don't respond, it's because the calls, I'm sure most of you aware, but they're ranked in severity. So if we have a shooting, that's going to take priority over or something like that. And hopefully we go on a trend where we hire more officers and we can provide better services with that, because that's unacceptable. Calling 911, not only does it get us to respond out there, or unfortunately, if we can't in a timely manner, it still keeps a digital track record of the problem. And that also impacts how resources are deployed amongst the city. They look at OUC data and say, well, where's the problem point? You can't argue with a 300% increase in 911 calls in a block or whatever the number is.
Thank you. I appreciate you for speaking to that publicly, just to help some of them out, because it is very, very concerning when you have stuff like that going on your door front.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Commissioner McCollum, I'll share with maybe some of your new residents an old school trick that the residents in Trinidad have been doing for decades to keep people off their property, off their fence and stuff like that. They will plant cactus around their gates. So that's an old school trick, just FYI, from Trinidad, from your Trinidad neighbors. Commissioner Rhodes, did you have a question?
I do have a question. Is it against the law to shoot dope in public?
Yes. Heroin? Yes.
I don't know what's in the needles, but I have observed, along with my constituents and just the public, notice folks literally put needles in their bodies or on hands, arms, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was asking because Captain Merle said that it's against the law to smoke marijuana in public places and public spaces. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of folks that are shooting dope or whatever it is.
They're using
in
publicly.
Public spaces. And I just wanted to know what was the difference.
Yeah, I mean, one's I think a civil penalty, marijuana. It's a fine, where shooting heroin, if we're able to get the substance, then it's a misdemeanor. It's an opioid. It's a possession of an opioid. Where are the areas that your constituents are talking about specifically? If you don't have them now, maybe you could email them to me.
I'll email you those places, but it's been going on for a long time. I mean,
Yeah, it's troubling to me too.
It's-
That's, shooting heroin is something usually people would be more, go to a secluded area, not something that would be done so out and about.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the lieutenant tonight? Where's my Q&A? I don't see anything in the Q&A. Oh, do we? No. Okay. Well, thank you, Lieutenant Sheldon, for joining us tonight. You answered a lot of our questions. And if you want to drop your contact info in the chat, we can go ahead and reach out to you at a later time. But we hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, moving forward with tonight's agenda, we have the Executive Office of the Mayor joining us. I think we have a special guest also.
I'm that guy. I'm
Like
using the link.
Christopher Ingram on there.
I'm using the link from Chris Buck.
How you doing, Mr. Black?
Good evening, Commissioner. Good evening, Commissioners, neighbors. It's truly a pleasure. My name is Anthony Black. I'm the Ward 5 liaison for the Mayor's office. No major updates on my end. I just want to touch on a couple of events that the mayor's having. She's having the National Maternal and Infant Health Summit tomorrow at the Convention Center, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. And from what I understand, this will be my first event, but it's a very good event. She's also having the Welcome to Washington, D.C. reception in honor of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 52nd Annual Legislation Conference. Congressional Hispanic Conference Institute's 46th Annual Leadership Conference, Thursday, September 21st. And that will be at 5:30 at Martin Luther King Library on the rooftop. I will drop the link to RSVP for that. We also have Director of Clean City, Mr. Phil Thomas. He's on here just to address the community cleanup that is happening in Commissioner Rhodes' SMD this Saturday. So with that being said, Director Thomas, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ward 5 Moker, Anthony Black, and I want to also shout out the other Ward 5 Moker, Chris, as well as a former Moker myself in Ward 3. I know that job is very tiring, very fulfilling, and also you learn a lot, not just about the ward, but about the city as well. So I always like to give a shout out to the Ward 5 Mokers, or the Mokers in general. Also want to thank the ANC for having me as a former commissioner as well. I know your job is very underpaid, but very fulfilling as well. As my council member, or former council member, I should say, that she would pass legislation to increase your salary, to double your salary. But knowing that you don't get paid, that doesn't mean much. But my council member always just say that. My name is Phil Thomas. I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of the Clean City. Before I talk about the event with Commissioner Rhodes this weekend, I want to talk about the Mayor's Office of the Clean City, as we get a lot of emails about what our office does and what the purpose of our office is. Our office was founded in our office was established in 1991 by then Mayor Williams. We there has transitioned to focus on 3 areas across the city. We focus on rodents. We don't actually kill the rodents. That's the Department of Health Rodent Control Division, but we work very closely with them. to dictate the hotspots through 311 and other avenues with emails as well. Another area we focus on is community cleanups and roll-off day. We deal with community cleanups, which is community-led. People reach out to our office all the time asking for supplies, which we have rakes, pickers, trash bags, gloves, brooms, dustpans, every type of supplies to do a community cleanup. And then we also focus on pet waste as well. So the dog waste, the public dog waste bins, around other things as well. We also find individuals or residents when it comes to pet waste and individuals not picking up their pet waste as well. We deal with that as well. So I like to consider our office the umbrella between the Department of Health, Road Control Division, the Department of Energy and Environment, and the Department of Public Works. We work very closely with those three agencies across the city. So we are doing a cleanup this weekend with Commissioner Rose. We're tagging along to her community cleanup as well. We're bringing a roll-off bin, a big one, and we accept most things. We have to look at the DPW website, and I'll send it to Commissioner Salvador, of stuff you cannot bring, but you can bring stuff like couches, some guard supplies as well. Actually, basically bulk items and put it in the dumpsters. We held one before in Commissioner Salvador's area, which was a very successful event. It's going to be this Saturday, September 23rd, starting at 10 a.m. at 1900, and the roll-off will be at 1900 Gallaudet Street Northeast. I'll also put my information in the chat. You can email me at phil.thomas@dc.gov, and my phone number is 202-794-2629. And I always have to leave you with the next event that the mayor is hosting, which is tomorrow, which is the Maternal and Infant Health Summit at Walter E. Reed Convention Center. From there, I'll stop there and take questions or whatever, Commissioner, you want me to do.
Yeah, we'll take questions from the commission and then from the public. A friendly reminder, we have a Q&A function for those that need to use it, and then we allow our senior citizens to ask questions directly by clicking on raise their hand so I can unmute you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the Director of Clean City? Commissioner Rhodes, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey Phil, thanks. Thanks for your service and coming out and helping us get some of this stuff out of the community and out of our homes that we don't need anymore. You said it was a list of stuff that you cannot put in the roll-off?
Yes, ma'am. And I can email you the list tomorrow, get Deja to email you the list from the DPW website.
Okay. And can you put your information in the chat, please?
Oh, absolutely. I would love that.
Yeah, so no chemicals, no paint, none of that hazardous stuff. You can leave that in your room. No, I'm playing. I'm sure there's spaces for that. DPW has actual locations for those kind of items, but like the director said, a majority of it's bulk. So if you don't want to wait for 311 to pick it up in 30 days, this is your opportunity to go ahead and get rid of it for once and for all. Commissioner McConnell, did you have a question?
Yeah, Director Thomas, thanks for being with us. I just wanted to just see if I can, I'll send you an email offline, but I'd like to get with you to possibly do something similar to what Commissioner Rhodes is doing over in our SMD. I think it'll be good to do that across our SMD. So I'd like to work with you and your team. So if you would just look for an email offline for me.
Absolutely. I'm actually going on vacation tomorrow. But I'll definitely respond to you, even when I'm on vacation, or not. Deja Pierre, who's the associate director, will respond as well. And she lives actually in your ANC, your ANC, absolutely.
Yeah,
And what's her
she's
name again?
South Deja.
Deja Pierre, yeah,
Okay.
she's great.
She
Thank
got
you
family
so
in
much.
Trinidad too. Director Thomas, before I get to some of these public questions, just two quick questions from me. Oh gosh, it's going off to, sometimes residents see the Clean City placards on certain street signs and it say so-and-so's adopted this block. How can we get in touch with those businesses or entities that have adopted a specific block?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can always email us, me or Deja. We have the data for the back end of those individuals. We have their contact information. We have their email. I know Commissioner Henderson emailed me about 2 months ago about it, a couple of signs, and she wanted to know their contact information. I can definitely share that with you, as well as, and you can get in contact with them about community cleanups, the cleanups they're doing on their block. So when it comes to the Adopt a Block program, the individual can request Adopt a Block on our website, Mayor's Office of the Clean City, under the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs. The stipulations or the criteria to adopt a block is you have to do 2 cleanups per year for 2 years. So the sign's only good for 2 years. And then we ask you to re-up it, or we'll remove, or DDOT will remove the sign.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sounds like some of these might be expired then.
Well, let me know, and we definitely try to stay on top of that. If we miss, we are human, we do make mistakes sometimes. So if we miss them, please let us know. We can get it removed, or we can reach out to the individual.
Great. And then just a quick follow-up for just knowing, I guess, what kind of direction one would take this. ANC commissioners in the past have did dock destruction days where folks come in and bring their shredding to certain spots. Is that something the Clean City's done, or should we go through another agency or office? What do you think?
So that's still, I know DOEE does shredding events, as well as they do e-cycling events as well. To speak into existence and what we worked on and what we've done in Michigan Park, and Anthony Black can vouch for this as well, is that we did an e-cycling and roll-off day. And the mayor has really pushed our office or my office to do like a one-stop shop per month, which is going to be like an e-cycling / shredding / roll-off day in each ward, and we're going that way. So hopefully by next year we can it can be like a one-stop shop.
Perfect. Thank you.
And hold me accountable, please.
Will do. You know I can. Let's go ahead and get some questions from the public. It's looking like we're talking about pet waste. As far as pet waste, is it possible to request pet waste cleanup stations in certain areas? And if so, I think you were touching on this. What's the way to go about that? From David Perkart.
Yes, David, thank you for your question. You can reach out. You can reach out to me or reach out to us at cleancity@dc.gov. We are trying to procure funding for pet waste stations. And the money wasn't available in this year's budget, but we're still trying to find
advocates to get it in there.
Yes. But once we secure funding for pet waste stations, we will do a community engagement. We will reach out to ANCs, we'll reach out to community stakeholders to talk about locations, and then we can install them. Each pet waste station costs roughly around like $800 to put in and install, to procure really. Which is the box, which is the sign and installation as well, and it goes through different agencies because DDOT has to install it, and they have the right of public space as well.
Okay, Where can we find that flyer on the cleanup event? I guess sharing your social media handles with us.
Yes, so our social media, well, first, I'm gonna throw it to Commissioner Rose, as I know she's done a lot of around engagement of the flyer and promotion of the community cleanup and roll-off day. So I'm gonna let Commissioner Rose, and then I'll add to that. Is that okay, Commissioner Rose? So I would say reach out to her first, as it's a
We
partnership.
I'm
And
sorry,
you're-
Director, and we did share it through a listserv, but if we need to get that to you, just feel free to reach out to us directly.
Yeah, and you can reach out to our handles as well. Clean City, DC, on Twitter, Instagram, all that. That's where the flyer is. Please help promote it. Please share it. Please like it. Please follow us as well.
Perfect. And we'll ask this question. What is the process for illegal dumping in alleyways where signs are posted? I guess no illegal dumping signs, what they might be referencing.
Yes, if there's illegal dumping, first I always like to look at the glass half full before half empty. So I want to give people the benefit of the doubt that they requested a 311 bulk pickup before we say it's illegal dumping. If it is illegal dumping, please email our office. We can send out a sweep inspector from DPW to investigate and cite the property and or get it cleaned as well.
Perfect. And I guess, Director, just so it comes from your mouth, can we get clarification on public trash cans? You talked about the pet waste receptacles. What about public trash cans? I know DPW's come out with some new material this year regarding those.
A lot has happened around public trash cans and legislation with the council and others. I know DPW has changed how they go about public inner cans, and I don't want to speak out of context or give any misinformation. So I will get back to you on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you,
Hey,
Director. Oh, go
Real,
ahead.
real quick, Commissioner Rose wants some of those doggy bags. If you have any more.
Yeah. When you
Thank
talk
you.
about, are you talking about the giveaways, the one that
waste.
goes on the lanyards?
Yeah, with the bags. Yeah,
Okay, absolutely. Anthony, can you see Deja on Wednesday, and she'll give them to you.
I sure
Okay.
will.
Thank you.
And how many do you want? I'll give you two bags of them, so it's about like 30, 40 of them. Is that okay?
2 bags is good.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you need, Clean City got you.
Right.
And I consider so going forward, we consider the mayor's office of Clean City the feel good office. The feel good office.
He said feel good. Got you on that one. We heard.
All right.
Okay, está bien. Thank you so much, Director, for coming out tonight. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing your team at the roll-off day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, now we have the council member's office. Do we? I think we do. I'm sorry, commissioners. Do you see Mr. Stout? Oh, yes, sorry.
That's there.
He was at the very top. Okay, as Mr. Stout gets ready, we'll be moving forward for getting some more folks just to do requested presentations. We'll see if we have someone from 5D Citizens Advisory Council joining us tonight. And I do see Mr. Gooch available for Catholic Charities, and hopefully our final presenter as well before we go to our final voting action items.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Stout. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How's everybody doing?
We're doing all
I'm
right. Thank you for
Oliver
joining
Stout.
us.
Yes, I'm Oliver Stout from the Ward 5 Council Office of Zachary Parker. And I have a few highlights for us today. First and foremost, as everyone knows, council returns from recess. So there's going to be some important hearings that are coming up. Also, the commissioning of the Northeast Boundary Tunnel. We'll talk about that. Also, the new legislation that the council member Parker is going to be pushing, as well as the 2 new farmers market in Ward 5. So as far as the hearings that are coming up, there'll be several important hearings, and we would love to make sure that we get everyone's testimony. The website now is a little bit more, there's more ease of access as far as people being able to submit written testimony, which Councilmember Parker advocated for at the beginning of the year. And it is easier to sign up and testify. So I'll be sending you guys that link as well. As far as the hearings that are coming up, today was a hearing from the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. It was a hearing held on several bills, including the Accountability and Victim Protection Amendment, which the Councilmember Parker co-introduced, as well as the Wheel Lock Help Incentive Program. And tomorrow is the Committee of Public Works Operations hearing. And then as well as the Queer History Commission Establishment Act, which you could sign up until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, September 19th. So I'll be dropping those links as well. So if you guys would, be able to come and give your testimony, that would be great. Or just come into the hearings and check out what's going on. I'll drop the link for that. Also, as far as commissioning for the Northeast Boundary Tunnel, this means that the tunnel is it's actually online. The project was the largest component of the Clean Rivers project and extends across Ward 5 from Trinidad to Brentwood to Edgewood and to Bloomingdale. The completion of this project will significantly mitigate the sewer flooding and improve the water quality of the Anacostia River and reducing overflows. Also at the NEBT project, tomorrow I will be conducting a walkthrough in reference to the ongoing construction and safety concerns near that project. So we'll be meeting at Capitol Avenue and Mount Olivet at 9 p.m. There'll be DC Water there. There'll be DDOT, ANC Commissioner, as well as the DPW. As far as legislation is concerned, new legislation from the council member is the Grandparent and Caregiver Subsidy Eligibility Act. The council member was proud to introduce the legislation that seeks to provide resources to some of the district's most vulnerable families and children. This bill would help with costs which are associated with caring for children who are relatives and provide necessary financial resources to families struggling to make ends meet. Also, for the new farmers markets, there are 2 new farmers markets. One is in Trinidad and one is in Union Market. The one in Trinidad is at Joe Cole Community Center. They meet on Sundays at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The one in Union Market is at 1309 5th Street, and it's also at the same time, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. On Wednesday, there will be the Brown Construction Kickoff Community Meeting, which will be on Wednesday at 6 p.m. The design and build partners are gearing up to begin the work that are in the coming weeks, and they would like to provide the opportunity for neighbors and members of the community and the school to learn more information and what to expect about the construction project. Also on Thursday, there will be the Empowerment DC Ward 5 Environmental Justice Town Hall, which is on Thursday at Trinity Baptist Church, as Commissioner Rhodes had already mentioned. And As for tomorrow, we will be having the Ward 5 at Nats Park. So if anyone did not get tickets, we may still have some. It is tomorrow at tomorrow at 7 p.m. And we look forward to have a lot of Ward 5 community members there. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Okay, I do see some questions from the public. If we do have someone from DC Water attending tonight, I think those questions would would better answer those. Chelsea Markle, which construction project were you just referencing? This is the construction project on Mount Olivet Road, where DC Water was, I don't know the proper verbiage to say, but DC Water was working on that tunnel project to prevent some of that major historic flooding that we've had there over the past couple of years. And as some of you all know, including Elanya Belletti, the roads are starting to be readjusted accordingly now that they're opening sections of that road back up again. But I'm sure we'll get a proper update on when that construction will actually cease. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Stout, it is supposedly planned for this year though, correct?
Say that again.
The road work, the construction work, we expect it to hopefully open back up this year.
Yeah.
It was just had major delays.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any questions from the public or commission. Okay, Mr. Stout. Well, thank you so much for coming out today. And I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. How are we doing on time, Mr. Parliamentarian?
We're doing pretty good right now.
Okay. I'm
Is
gonna
there-
get I'm gonna get the next presenters situated. I'll ask for just a brief 1-minute recess from the commission. Remind me, Mr. Parliamentarian, if we need to make a motion for that.
Well, we can just take a pause instead of a recess.
Okay, that's fine with me. We'll come back at 8:26, 2 minutes. So feel free to use the restroom, commission. Okay, thank you, everyone. Commissioner May, I'm gonna just strike on the on here that the 5D Citizens Advisory Council didn't attend today. They'll attend next month's meeting. So just for your note purposes, that what the strikeout is for, if I can find that function.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And Mr. Gooch, we'll allow you to present next so you can speak on the men's shelter.
Good evening.
How
Thank
you
you
doing,
for
Mr. Gooch?
inviting me. My name is Larry Gooch. I am the Senior Program Manager of the New York Avenue Men's Shelter. I work for Catholic Charities, but we contract with DC government, Department of Human Services to operate the shelter. I'm a Washingtonian. I've been in Washington all my life. I actually come out of the Ivy City Trinidad neighborhood. So this is just like a roundabout circle of me coming back into the community and giving back to the community. I want to give everyone the opportunity to reach out to me. I will put my contact in the chat. Any concerns as it relates to the shelter or some of the shelter residents. And I welcome all feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. Just to elaborate a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about the shelter? Again, where it's located, what hours we would find someone like you there, or just in general, when is that vicinity open? Stuff like that.
So the shelter is located at 1355 New York Avenue. I'm available most days from 10 to 6. That's my operational hours, but I'm also accessible basically throughout the day and throughout the night because shelter is a residential facility where a lot of things do occur. So I try to keep my fingers on the pulse of any and all activity that's happening in and around the shelter. Me and Commissioner Rhodes have spoke on several occasions about concerns that she had that may have been involving some of our residents. I looked into those matters, take them very seriously. And we try to ensure, and we have town hall meetings on a weekly basis to kind of communicate information to our clientele to let them know some of the concerns and how to be good neighbors. So we, with the increase, we have a population of 225 nightly residents. Our normal operations would have been from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. daily. But due to COVID and due to the city did not want more homeless individuals on the streets just wandering around during the day, they have extended 24-hour services. So the shelter is open 24 hours a day.
And you said, Mr. Gooch, that you typically at night you have 225 residents?
Yes.
Is there a max limit on this shelter?
This is the max limit, 225.
225.
Yes.
And where the majority of the other men that seek shelter there go once you reach
So
that max?
Catholic Charities operate 5 shelters, 3 men's shelters throughout the city. And we also operate, really 4 men's shelters because we operate in a hypothermic shelter and 2 female shelters. We have the Adams Place location at 2210 Adams Place, Northeast. We have the 801 residential, which beds nightly, if I'm not mistaken, about 369 in the Southeast on the campus of St. Elizabeth. We have the Harriet Tubman Female Shelter on the campus of the old DC General, which houses about 150 women's nightly. We have the Georgia Avenue, St. Josephine for females, which house like 24 women's nightly. It's a smaller shelter. And we have the I Street Old Blair Shelter, which was formerly ran by the Coalition for the Homeless, but Coalition for the Homeless had their new shelter, well, their old shelter renovated over at the Embry Shelter. And because of the city's not being able to leverage a lot of the assets that they would usually use during hypothermia season, Blair has been extended as a hypothermia season. I mean, a hypothermia shelter for this season with 72 beds.
And Mr. Gooch, can you reiterate what are the closest shelter? What's the next closest shelter for men and women?
Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what the address is over at DC General for the women's, but that is, I could get that information to you and to the commissions that makes sure that y'all have that information and compile it to the public. But that's on the campus of DC General, and that's like 150 beds. And then you have the one in the Southeast Quarter, which is the 801 East Men's Shelter, 369 beds.
That's a big one.
And multiple programs. They have a elderly seniors bed program. They have a respite bed program. They also have a work bed program. New York Avenue and 801 East both have work bed beds dedicated to work bed programs. So these are individuals that are actually gainfully employed and working to get their self out of homelessness.
And can you talk about some of your current, I don't want to say problems, but some of your current struggles at the shelter and some of your wins?
So some of the current struggles that we have is just more so behavior struggles, substance abuse. We have had assaults. We had one of our most recent event that happened, I would say in July. That was a individual discharged a weapon, which caused one resident to get shot and one non-resident to get shot in the rear alley of 1355 New York Avenue. We also seen that there were, and I think Commissioner Rose, she assisted with trying to locate the owner of, if I'm not mistaken, 1346 Oakey Street. The building that's right there, back in the back of it, residents had started using that. They had made a makeshift encampment and everything. But as of Thursday, all that stuff was moved. And we sent out our outreach team to kind of mitigate and let individuals know that there was other shelters that they could frequent. What we do have is a problem of individuals that may have been terminated from our programs due to certain behavior issues that are not following the rules, assaults, theft, that have been terminated. Once they're terminated, they can no longer stay inside the shelter. But because that alleyway is a public space that we do not have jurisdiction of, only the city has jurisdiction of, and they're aware of it. DHS, I know, reaching out to the 5th District commanders about some of the issues as it relates to that alley. DPW also is aware of it. We have a budding population of migrants that stays at the shelter. we've noticed that there's been an increase of some autos being possibly stolen or do not have proper registration to them. And so we have been working with parking enforcement to come out and investigate, and in some cases get ticketed and towed of some of the vehicles in the rear of 1355.
Well, thank
So
you for sharing
those
that.
are some of the main concerns.
Sounds like it's a lot, Mr. Gooch. Is it something that's been happening a lot lately? Is an increase or just stuff that you just kind of have to deal with these kind of settings?
I think, well, I know for a fact, a lot of things have occurred since the pandemic. There were some issues prior to the pandemic, but it's kind of exacerbated the situation. And with the influx of the migrants, we are watching right now is some of the behaviors that we was already seeing of the residents that were already previously at the shelter. Now we are beginning to see some of those behaviors with the migrant population that have come from Venezuela and other areas south of our borders. We still, so the shelter cannot turn away anyone if we have a bed available until we reach max capacity. At that point, we will try to divert them to other shelters throughout the city. One thing about 1355, it is centrally located in the city to all the resources. So everyone wants to take a bite of this apple. Prior to the pandemic, New York Avenue would love to, I mean, what population was 360 nightly.
Oh, wow.
So we have significantly under my tenure to bring it down, and also to kind of like look at how to mitigate the space that we have and ensuring more so safety for our staff and for our security, which is on site. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gooch, for this information. Are there any questions from the public or any of the commissioners before we let Mr. Gooch go, or just probably ask, do you have any questions for us as a commission, Mr. Gooch? You're native to the area and work in the area now, so any questions for us as ANC commissioners?
No, I'm very familiar with what y'all do as a body. Yes.
Okay, well, we appreciate your hard work. God bless and continue keeping that chin up over there. And just a final question, I guess, from me, so the public is aware. These
Mr.
spaces.
Rhodes.
Oh, Commissioner Rhodes, do you have a question?
I do.
Go ahead before you ask mine.
Mr. Gooch, are you prepared to talk about the new location or the new the housing that's getting ready to get developed for the men?
So we're still in the planning stages. I've talked about this. Yes, I can talk about, well, the City Council and the Department of Human Services have on the slate agenda for a new, I think about 360 bed shelter to be built in the formal, well, where right now the animal shelter is at, between 9th Street and Fairview? I think that's Fairview right there. And so it is expected to be somewhere between 2020 and the end of 2025, 2026. We're still doing community engagement with our clients, staff, and security on what that would look like. There has been a rendition made, but they're still trying to work out the fine tune before they roll it out generally to the full public. So that's where we're at on that.
And just a final question before you let you go, Mr. Gooch. These spaces, it's all pretty much volunteer entry. We can't force folks to go over there if we deem them that it might benefit them for the night.
No, so the city has been very proactive on trying to bring about individuals that are out in the streets, really unsheltered, even though they might be in an encampment. That's unsheltered, really. To utilize the services to try to work towards some type of housing. We do have several different housing models. It's not a one size fit all. Based upon a lot of different factors, we use different tools to assess the level of vulnerability of housing. And then we have, like I said, there's so many different areas that we utilize to try to get people's off the street and into some type of stabilized housing. That could be even back in their former housing with some assistance. So, you know, the city has definitely been proactive on trying to end homelessness. But as you know, that's a tall order. And what we do is we try to mitigate. District of Columbia is very unique in itself, having we the only jurisdiction that have a law to right to shelter. No other jurisdiction has it. So, you know, we are the first in the country to have that. And that's under the Homeless Service Reform Act of 2005.
Nice. Okay. Are there any other questions from commissioners or the public? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Gooch, for coming to our meeting and getting to know you and the shelter a little bit better. And we look forward to working together in the future.
No problem.
You have a good night.
You know.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So for the remainder of tonight's meeting, looks like we're doing good on time. Do we just to make sure there's no one from DC Water here tonight? I think we were supposed to have one of the program managers on the project attending. Is Alan Etter on? Nope. Okay, we'll come back to them in another meeting then. Moving forward with tonight's agenda, we have some voting action items. We have two tonight. We have a BZA matter on 1271 5th Street Northeast being presented by Edens. And then we also have a 6th Street Development Project by JBG Gallaudet. Do we have those folks? You want to raise your hand? Commissioner Cobb, you have to make your little statement.
Yeah, just the usual spiel that because of my day job, I'm ethically forbidden from considering planning, zoning, land use matters. So I'm going to turn off my mic and go off video, not ignoring anyone. I'm just stepping away and I'll be back for the item on the agenda after that.
Thank you. Okay, so first up, we have BZA matter at 12C1 5th Street Northeast being presented by Edens. Thank you all so much for coming out to tonight's meeting. You can go ahead and start the presentation as when you're available.
Okay, commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
You can. Okay, good. All right. And do you see the screen that I'm sharing? Yes. Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you all for allowing us time on your agenda today. My name is Reynolds Allen. I'm with Edens. Joining me is Grant Johnson, also with Edens, and also Dave Lewis, our zoning counsel with Coolston and Stores. For those of you who may not know Edens, we have a long history of creating retail places designed to bring people together, build and strengthen communities, provide goods and services needed, and create employment opportunities, often by helping create opportunities for new small businesses, which has been a big focus at Union Market in particular. Here, we have fostered the launch of over 75 small businesses, many DC-owned businesses. And over the 17 years that we've been working on the Union Market District, hundreds of jobs have been created, a very large portion of these held by DC residents and many by Ward 5 residents. Today, we're here to share a new proposed project with you at 1271 5th Street Northeast, which we have filed an application with the Board of Zoning Adjustment to redevelop this property for use that is a permitted use under existing zoning, but we do need a few exceptions to make it work, which I'll explain further shortly. Oops. All right. So the location is a small parcel directly across the street from Politics and Prose in the Village Cafe. It was a vacant wholesale beauty supply building when we acquired it 9 years ago. The existing building sits between the recently constructed 10-story apartment building, the Morse, which you see at the bottom right, and the planned Gallaudet JBG Smith development that is approved for a 12-story project on the current parking lot parcel, which borders the property on its rear and left side. So rather than a large high-density project, as was originally planned for this property, we're proposing a 5-story, 80 to 100 room hotel with a ground floor that acts as a gathering space for the community, rather than merely a lobby for the hotel. We feel a hotel use on this site is a good balance to the number of apartments recently built or to be built, and that a hotel use meshes best with the ground floor atmosphere we're hoping to accomplish, a comfortable, inviting space for the neighborhood. We have previously presented this project to the Office of Planning and DDOT, both of which seemed happy with our plans and encouraged our application, suggesting that the request is justified and fits within the vision of that the district has for this area. We also presented to your Zoning and Development Committee and then presented to your Committee of the Whole, which I'll let them speak to their opinion of the project, but felt generally positive about the proposed use, but had some questions that we're going to answer in the presentation today. So the property is currently zoned PDR1, which stands for Production, Distribution, and Repair, with uses permitted that may not sound like what PDR is an acronym for, such uses as hotel and retail as permitted uses. The zoning designation is specifically intended to permit moderate density commercial activities that employ large numbers of people. Our project is moderate density to low density and would create 60 or more new good jobs. Again, to clarify, we are not asking to rezone this property. On this page, all of the properties in orange, which there are about 24, have been rezoned to high density mixed use projects. This is important because the reasons that we are requesting special exceptions for our project are due to the zoning requirements generally meant to protect low density residential, think single family or townhome type properties if they were next door, which is not the case here at all. As you can see, the properties bordering the 3 sites of our property have been rezoned to high density mixed use projects. Here are a few photos of the property today for context. We want to point out in the top left picture that the Morse residential building that we mentioned next door has no windows on the first 8 floors on the side where our property is. That is because the owner designed the building expecting for our building to also be built to the property line. So we would have a shared lot line, meaning the exterior walls of the building would be right against one another. The building plan for the other side on us on Gallaudet's parcel is designed the same way, with the exterior walls right against ours. This is important for understanding expectations of density to be built here. And when we explain the setback special exception requests, I'll remind you of it again when we review those requests. The other thing that I want to point out to you is the picture on the right side of the page, where there's an opening at the ground level of the building right behind our property. It's the first phase of coordinated service alley that DDOT requested the 3 property owners provide to reduce truck traffic on the streets. All 3 property owners have already signed an easement and recorded it to dedicate portions of their property for this service alley. This is relevant when understanding the rear setback exception request, and it also relates to one of the Committee of the Whole questions about traffic and safety. Just a couple more photos to give you a little bit to orient you on the site, and now to the plans. So what's proposed is a 5-story building comprised of ground floor space, as I described earlier, with 4 levels of hotel above. Now, these are the plans of the ground floor and the mezzanine level. On the left, the yellow area indicates where we are voluntarily setting our building back from the property line to create a nice open outdoor area at the front. This is not a requirement, but we think it'll enhance the experience on the sidewalk and provide nice relief in the streetscape of this block. Now, the next levels, the left is how the floor plans for the first 3 levels of the hotel layout. And on the right is the penthouse level, which in pink shows either hotel rooms or food and beverage offerings. Or a food and beverage offering with a terrace. Now, here's the building we just discussed, dropped into the future surrounding massing plan to give you a feel for how this lower density building fits in amongst the higher density buildings surrounding it. And this is another perspective with a very, very preliminary rendering that hopefully helps just to illustrate how this fits in between the existing building on the right and the to be built building on the left. So now, as mentioned, we have filed an application with the Board of Zoning Adjustment for this proposed project to request special exceptions for 5 items, which is why we're here tonight asking you for a letter of support. So again, we're not asking to rezone the property. We are not asking to build our building taller than the height limit already allowed. We are not asking to change the uses already allowed. The 5 areas of exception are: first, floor area ratio, which is a ratio to calculate how much total square footage can be constructed on the property. The floor area ratio allowed for PDR1 zones is 3.5 FAR typically. However, there's a note in the zoning code that some of the allowed uses are limited to a 2.0 floor area ratio, which that note applies to hotels and retail, unless approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Important to recall from what I said earlier about why there might be limitations on properties in the PDR1 zone, so they do not negatively affect lower density properties next to them. This is where the fact that the properties next to ours are high density mixed use projects, so that possible negative impact that the zoning is looking to protect is no longer an issue, and the limitation on the floor area ratio is not necessary. Second, we'd like the ability to have a food and beverage offering on the top floor of the hotel with a terrace. This is not a zone dependent special exception. Any building in DC with eating and drinking establishments proposed on the top floor requires special exception. Third, we are asking to reduce the 12-foot rear setback by 2 feet to 10 feet to match our portion of the service alley easement already agreed to with our neighbors as required by DDOT that we discussed before. This service alley is over 34 feet wide, so in total, it's 10 feet wider than the required setbacks combined would have been for the 2 properties anyway. Fourth, since the adjacent properties were rezoned to high density, the PDR or side yard setback from lower density adjacent properties no longer makes sense as mentioned before. And the property owners on each side of our property planned and designed assuming no setback as shown. And last, due to the small size of this property, the smaller size of the proposed building, the use being a hotel rather than residential units, the types of traffic that a hotel brings being primarily rideshare, and the ample parking that has been constructed recently and more to come, we are proposing that there is not parking constructed on this property. A hotel, rather than a residential building, generates much fewer trips by cars needing parking. What is needed is an area for pickup and drop off, which we are providing at the curbside. We hired traffic engineering firm Grove Slade to do a parking and traffic analysis for us. At peak traffic, based on our 105-room hotel, which is more rooms than we plan to build, it is estimated that only 12 to 20 cars would require parking over a 24-hour period. Most hotel trips will access the site via nearby metro or rideshare. Now to talk to parking supply. And this is starting to address, we have 3 questions we're going to address here that came up in committee of the whole or prior presentations. So what you see in yellow on this map are parking garages fairly recently constructed in the area. There are 602 parking spaces open for public use in 9 garages nearby, which is something that I don't think many people realize yet. They are not well used. 1/3 of those spaces have just been built and became available in the past few months. These 602 spaces are in addition to nearly 1,400 parking spaces reserved for the apartment residents or office workers in these buildings. That's a total of almost 2,000 new spaces that exist today. So what you see in the blue are garages that are planned to be built. This adds another 420 parking spaces open to public use, increasing the 602 that exist today to over 1,000 parking spaces open to public use. Plus, there are over 350 street parking spaces in the area. It's a lot of parking. This is all part of a parking strategy that was carefully planned out with DDOT, other agencies, and other property owners to ensure that the area is well served by large parking garages on larger properties where such could be built around the Union Market area. For this project, as we said, we're talking about needing 12 to maybe 20 cars at night, parking 12 to 20 cars at night when retail spaces are much less used. The overall Union Market parking strategy is built to easily accommodate this. So after years of work, it is now just coming to fruition where many of those 1,000 parking spaces now exist. To address the second question, coming from the committee of the whole discussion, it's a question raised about the public space design and pickup drop-off areas, how pickup and drop-off areas would be managed. Shown here on the left is the existing condition, which is not a sidewalk, but a driveway aprons across the entire property frontage, all for servicing the former wholesale building. Shown on the right is an illustration from the Union Market Street Safe Guidelines, which are the result of an over 2-year planning and design process between the Office of Planning, DDOT, Gallaudet, Edens, and many other agencies and property owners to create a better pedestrian environment and safer street sections while retaining functionality and the historic character of the Union Market area. And these guidelines also incorporate deaf space design principles, which were authored by Gallaudet University. The public space in front of our proposed project would comply with this strategic design and planning document. The result here would be a very wide, 31 foot wide, in fact, sidewalk with areas for seating, planting, and clear travel paths. At the curb, what's currently 2 big driveways will become 60 feet of drop-off pickup zones, which is enough for 3 cars plus additional street parking spaces. And last, transportation improvements. So there was a concern raised about traffic and safety in the area in the last meeting. Over the last few years, there's been quite a bit of work underway to replace very old underground utility lines, improve streets and sidewalks, and general construction traffic. It has been busy and disruptive. All a means to an end, but admittedly not fun getting there. I've been coming to work at Union Market almost every day for over a decade, so I know it and I feel it personally. What you see here is a sample of about 24 road and transportation improvement projects that are part of an overall master infrastructure plan. I'm sorry it's a little harder to read than I intended. I had hoped to create a better visual for you. But really, what you can likely tell that there's a lot. Several already completed, shown here in green, and several underway, and some are planned to be done as part of other projects being completed. There's more that are just not even shown here. So the traffic today is not helped by the heavy amount of construction going on to complete these projects in public space. But as I said, it is all means to an end. So we are working to make safer streets, sidewalks, and manage traffic best for the long run. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Friendly reminder for the public, if you have any questions, to go ahead and drop your questions in the Q&A, or if you're a senior, to use the raise your hand function to be able to ask a question directly. Do we have any questions from the commission or any comments from the commissioners? I just have a quick question on the parking, because everything else made sense to me since the last time you presented. This requirement, though, that we're trying to, cast aside, where is that coming from exactly? The required number of parking spaces that need to be available for this space.
Yeah, I mean, under code, there is a requirement for 22 parking spaces, as it would be calculated based off of those particular uses.
Commissioner Arbuckle?
I think Commissioner McCullum raised his hand first.
No, you were first. Go for it.
Oh, okay. So I like this project. To me, it seems good. Particularly on the parking. I think it is a good idea to, I support granting the exemption on the parking, because among other reasons, that if they were to provide parking there, they would have to create a new curb cut onto Fifth Street. And because that private alley is only for loading, so they wouldn't be able to put parking in there. So if they were to put a new curb cut on Fifth Street, or I guess reopen the old one, it would be kind of an ugly gash. It would be like probably 24 feet wide if the other one is any indication. And so it would make yet another conflict point between pedestrians and motorists. And so I think it would be bad for the streetscape and the street life in the area if they had parking. So I very much support them consolidating the parking in those large garages instead of having a ton of openings everywhere, instead to have a few openings and with the big garages inside.
Mr. Allen, just to reaffirm, these parking garages that you are referencing all night, are they free to the public?
So Edens controls some of these garages. They are not completely free. They do have 3 hours of free parking today. But then they are charged by the hour for the ones that are open for public parking.
These are all of Edens?
No,
owned,
no,
or is just the one that you're referencing in La Cosecha?
So we control the garages on this plan at La Cosecha, as you mentioned, which is number 4 on this plan. Also number 2, number 3, number 5, and then in the future, numbers 12, 13, and 14.
And those are for first 3 hour free parking?
Yeah, today, everything that we operate is we give 3 hours of free parking.
Thank you for clarifying. Commissioner McCollum, did you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick. Thank you for being here tonight. You mentioned 20, I just need clarity on the 22 spaces that you mentioned that you're providing, and the rest, I guess, would be parking in these parking garages, right?
No, actually, if you use the parking calculation under code for the proposed uses, it would require 22 parking spaces. Our request is actually to provide no parking spaces with this particular project, but that those 22 spaces would be easily accommodated within the larger garages that we've already constructed. So the garages that we've constructed are 3 to 4 times the size that would be required per the code calculation.
And by you not, with you asking for us to support this without that parking, would it be that much of a detriment for you all to provide the parking? Like, what is the big issue for, I did hear my colleague that say why he's supporting this, but what is the big issue for why you all do not want to provide those 22 spaces?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a few answers to that question. First, the overall area has been thought out and strategically planned to provide parking in larger garages to consolidate those parking areas into those particular garages. And that's why we've constructed them larger today and plan to build others at much larger capacity than would be required for those particular sites. Part of that reason is, to what Commissioner Arbuckle mentioned before, wanting to have less impact of the streetscape, better for the pedestrian environment. Other reasons are, for this particular site, the size of the site itself is quite small. It's only a 13,000 square foot land area. So it's only about 90 feet wide by 130 feet deep, which is very small and very hard to actually design parking into that size of a footprint. I can go on, but that probably is enough for answering your questions, but I'm happy to go further.
No, that was good. Thank you. And so if you all were to provide the parking, would the parking be free?
So it is not free, completely free. We provide parking free for the first 3 hours currently in any of the garages that we own.
No, I get I get that the garage parking is 3 hours, but I'm saying if you were to, if we required you to do the 22, or we asked for you to do the 22 spaces, that is according to code, would those 22 spaces provide free parking?
No, not necessarily. What we would, it really depends, it's a little bit of a complicated answer, so I apologize for that. But with the hotel operator that we will partner with for this particular project, they may elect to rent those particular spaces out and then provide them for free to guests that come to the hotel. But that is something I can't necessarily commit that that's how that will work until we identify and have confirmed our actual partner who's going to operate as we develop, and then they operate that with us.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the other commissioners? We do have one question from the public from David Parkar. Are there any increased risk of fires spreading with the reduced yard requirements?
I don't know that I am qualified to answer that, to be totally honest. And I'm not sure that our attorney is probably the right person to ask either. To help not answer that question, the anticipated development for this project is to have shared party walls as are shown, and that hence that's why those other buildings are designed without windows on those sides. But I don't know how to answer the fire protection question. I mean, they will have to be built to code, and so based on being built to fire code, there will be higher requirements for what the rating is of the walls between the two buildings. So I would think that building code itself accommodates for making sure that there's not greater chance of any of those hazards, but I'm not a licensed professional to be able to answer that specifically.
Yeah, I'm not a fire code expert either, but I would just point out that the distance between the rear of this building and the rear of the JBG building across the alley is greater than what the zoning requires. It's just that the offset on the JBG side is larger than on the side of the hotel we're talking about. They're required to be 24 feet apart. They're going to be, what is the distance, Reynolds, 34 feet apart?
Yeah,
so the distance is greater than what the code requires. It's just that it's shifted more onto the on the other side of the property line because of how the alley is designed.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? I myself think the project is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not in favor of projects like this not providing any kind of parking, but you did explain that these garages are being built, have been built. Just a friendly note for developers that are presenting in the future with different projects. If you're gonna not be providing parking, it would be a good idea just to make sure you have updated information on the traffic patterns and updates in Union Market. It's the Wild Wild West there. There are barely even lines to be looking at, to be driving on. So vehicle usage, vehicle parking, transportation, these are questions you're always going to get. So I do appreciate you all as presenters doing your due diligence to provide some information on some of this matter.
Thank you.
Great. With no other questions from commissioners or the public, I'll ask Commissioner Arbuckle to make a motion to support this project.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to support this project as presented.
Can Commissioner Arbuckle get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner May. On favor of the motion, say aye.
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 How many was that? I think I counted 1, 2, 3. Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
1 nay. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Commissioner Rose, did you state your vote? I think you're
Aye.
muted. Aye. Okay. The ayes have it on this motion. The motion carries. Gentlemen, please work with Commissioner Arbuckle to get that executed letter of support on this project.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all
for
for
coming
having
out
us
tonight.
tonight.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Saucedo Guzman, did you vote? I'm so sorry.
Yes, aye.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you all. Our next agenda item, voting action item is this just a 6th Street development project update. They're looking for support on this current state of the project. And we have some folks attending tonight that we had at our last committee of the whole meeting. Thank you again for joining us.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Everyone see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Marissa Geiser, and I'm presenting on behalf of the JBG Smith and Gallaudet teams working on this 6th Street development project that you see on the screen here. We're joining you this evening to share the contents of our recent public space applications for this project. So the applications have been submitted and require the ANC's letter of support for final approval. On the screen here, you can see the projects we're discussing today. So just to quickly orient everyone, the street that's running north-south between the 2 blocks of color is 6th Street. In blue outlined is the parcel 3 portion of the project, and in green is parcel 2. To the north of parcel 3, you can see Union Market and the future massing of what that will become. And Gallaudet University is to the east of parcel 2. Parcel 3 will be approximately 600 residential units with retail on the ground floor, and parcel 2 will have about 230 residential units with retail on the ground floor. Last summer, with the support of the ANC, our stage 2 PUD received unappealable zoning approval. Since then, we've advanced and completed the design drawings and submitted excavation and foundation permits for both projects. As I mentioned, we are currently pursuing our public space approval, which pertains specifically to the streetscape and public space improvements of the project. So that's what I'm going to focus on this evening. So just very quickly to remind everyone of what our commitments in the PUD were as it relates to public space, you can see we've categorized it into 2 major buckets. The first is pedestrian experience. So that's improving the streetscape, implementing depth space design, and then majorly redeveloping the 6th Street to prioritize pedestrians. So doing things like narrowing the right of way to help slow traffic, installing a protected bike lane, and installing a tabletop crossing at 6th Street at that major pedestrian cross point for Gallaudet and Union Market. The second bucket is traffic mitigation. So that's really focusing on helping to build new connections between 5th and 6th Street through the introduction of Tapscott Street. We're also contributing new traffic signals at Moore Street, installing new traffic management cameras to work with DDOT's system, and contributing to the NOMA Gallaudet Metro Station Fund. Additionally, as mentioned in the previous presentation, we've worked on implementing the Union Market streetscape design guidelines and collaborated very closely with DDOT in the presentation of these designs. Shown here on the screen is the landscape master plan that was presented and approved in our stage 2 PUD application. So this master plan incorporates all the things I showed on the previous slide and was ultimately designed to prioritize pedestrians and create a vibrant streetscape. So it includes things like generous sidewalk widths for easy circulation. It uses material changes to help notify pedestrians of any potential conflicts that might come up. It includes a lot of street trees and many plantings to help beautify the neighborhood. And also, as I mentioned, uses traffic calming techniques to help minimize those conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. Just to remind everyone of the current conditions. So on the screen here, you see the existing conditions at parcel 2. So the top view here is looking southeast toward parcel 2, the existing structured parking. And you can see here in the foreground, that is the current crossing between Union Market and Gallaudet's University. On the bottom, again, you can see this view looking toward parcel 2. You'll note that you can see the bike lane, you can see the pedestrian sidewalk and the parking for the cars. And there's really not a lot of separation between those 3 elements that could cause a safety concern. So we really worked on addressing that in our design. Parcel 3 is very similar. You'll see this is the surface parking lot here, right in front of Union Market. That's where Parcel 3 will go. And again, you can see there's not a lot of separation between pedestrian and car traffic, creating safety concerns. Oops. Here. So moving on to our design, you can see this is the current design on the screen here. Hopefully you'll notice that it hasn't changed too much since the PUD. So really we just wanted to kind of highlight again what the public improvements are that we're proposing, and then highlight one specific deviation that came as a result of coordination efforts with DDOT. And you'll also notice that there are 3 different outlines here, indicating 3 different applications. So we have a Parcel 2 public space application, Parcel 3 public space application, and then we have this little connection point here in the middle within 6th Street. That's where the raised crossing will go. And we've only separated it out to make sure that regardless of which side of the project ends up completing first and turning over first, that the streetscape improvements in between have something to connect to on both sides. So that piece can kind of move around as we need it to make sure that we're navigating the grade changes and that there isn't a crossing leading to nowhere if the other side hasn't yet been completed. So for Parcel 2, just real quick, you can see some renderings of what the proposed building will look like, just to give you a sense of the look and feel of it. Here's another rendering where you can start to see that activated streetscape, really lively environment. So here you can see this is the Parcel 2 application. So that includes everything east of the east curb of 6th Street, as well as the 2-way cycle track that will run all the way north to Brentwood Parkway. Overall, like I said, the design really hasn't changed. It still promotes pedestrian-friendly experience. It creates that vibrant streetscape and has trees lining both sides of the cycle track, lush plantings, generous sidewalks, and as I mentioned, thoughtful and meaningful material changes to help notify pedestrians when they might be coming into contact with other modes of transportation. Moving on to the Parcel 3 application, again, just a reminder of the images and the building that we're talking about. This is the Parcel 3 project. And another view from 6th Street. Parcel 3 is a very similar story. You can see the extents of this application outlined. The one thing to note is Parcel 3 has 2 sides of frontages. So we have 5th Street and 6th Street, both of which will be improved, as you can see on the screen. Again, we just really wanted to promote a pedestrian-friendly experience. So you see those generous sidewalks, lush plantings, and material changes as well. And the final piece of the application is that 6th Street portion. So you can see it outlined here in context, how it relates to both Parcel 2 and Parcel 3. And I'll zoom in here. So this is the 6th Street portion of the project. As I mentioned, this is really the only minor deviation from the original PUD application. And really what it was this raised crossing, which you can see there's the ramp up on the left-hand side and the ramp down. So this portion here would be the raised crossing. The original application showed it running from Tapscott all the way north to basically align with the property extents of Parcel 2 and 3, the north property extents. And working with DDOT, the reason that we wanted this tabletop crossing to begin with was to really help slow traffic and create a safer pedestrian crossing from Union Market to Gallaudet. So as they started to look at it, they recognized that if the tabletop was too long, cars would actually have a chance to accelerate once they got on top of the tabletop and ultimately defeat the whole purpose of the raised crossing to begin with. So we worked with them to shorten it to a reasonable length that still created a nice kind of moment here for pedestrians to cross. And in doing so, we pulled out the lay-by lane. So this is where, Uber drivers and things of the like can pull off to the side. We've pulled that out from the tabletop crossing. It originally was kind of concealed within the whole thing. So now these lay-by lanes are right in line with the rest of the streetscape. You also note that there's a hawk signal here. So there's that signal that you'll see an image in the lower right-hand side to give you a sense of the crossing that would be there for the pedestrians. I believe that is it. Would love to hear any questions or concerns, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question, just for clarification purposes, as a resident. I saw a lot of greenery, a lot of trees in your plans. Who's technically maintaining all these plants once they're actually there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the trees that are in the public right of way, those would be maintained by the city, I believe. Anything that's not considered standard in our application, so there are a handful of those items, we as the property owners would maintain. So anything that DDOT and the city hasn't already approved and verified they can maintain, we would be responsible for maintaining.
Got you. Perfect. Any questions from the commissioners? We do have one from the public for clarification purposes. Is parcel 3 taking away the current free public parking for Union Market customers?
It is going on the location of that current surface parking lot, correct? There will be some public parking available within the parking structure of parcel 3 as well as parcel 2. There will be a decent amount there as well. Similar to the previous applicant, it would be free for the first few hours and then it would end up being charged. But
Perfect. Okay. And I guess a follow-up comment. I don't know if you could comment on this, but what is the motivation for removing that for community members? I guess what's the right that you all have there to do so?
to remove the surface parking lot, is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it comes down to the highest and best use for the property. And obviously we know parking is a big concern for residents and don't want to take any away. But as it currently stands, it's a great location right by Union Market and in the heart of the neighborhood. And we feel like introducing more retail, providing more jobs and residences is a really meaningful and beneficial application of this proposed lot. So we're still providing a lot of parking as much as we possibly can, but trying to make sure we enhance the community as much as we can.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner McCollum, I see your hand is raised.
Sure, thank you. Very good presentation. I want to commend you on your presentation tonight. It was very, very good. I enjoyed it. I do have just a couple of questions though.
Sure.
The lay-by lanes, thank you. I've been asking for those for most of the folks that come and present. So very good and very glad to see those. The raised crossings are good. My one question is, because you all are taking most of the public, well, all of the public free parking there, have you thought about possibly partnering with some of the folks who own some of the parking garages to offer, some type of parking there, or to kind of have some type of, when you just take this much parking away, it just, no one hears anything good except for the parking is leaving. So I wanted to know, have you all thought about possibly partnershiping with someone?
Yeah, absolutely understood. It's something we haven't really looked into much, but we'd be happy to do so. Point well taken as far as parking concerns.
Yeah, that section, I mean, not that it just does, it really is a lot of free parking for people. So it's a big resource for folks that live in that area, let alone want to visit. We do get a lot of folks come up from the NOMA side of that part of DC, come into Union Market and use that, the resources, the fields, whatever there. So definitely if the commission would really harp on something, would be if you're going to take away a big resource, just if we would love to see some due diligence and some action on retaining a little bit of that resource for folks, because it is happen to be a big one right there on that side. Other than the parking lot itself, 6th Street does provide a good amount of free parking, because parking ain't cheap in DC. So when you got it for free, that's a blessing. Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, just one last follow-up. The two
Mhm.
buildings, how much parking will be provided in those buildings?
Public parking?
Well, not public, but for residential.
Sure. So for both of the projects, we're parking at about a 0.4 ratio per unit. So 0.4 stalls per residential unit. So for parcel 3, we have about 600 units. So it's about 250, 300 parking stalls there. And then parcel 2, we have about 230 units. And we actually have substantially more parking in parcel 2 because we actually have TIF financing for some public parking as well. So there will be a substantial amount of retail parking. I think we have 157 stalls that would be publicly accessible retail parking, as well as about 60 stalls for the residents.
Thank you.
Nice. And just to reaffirm, when will this construction plan to take place?
A little bit TBD. We're monitoring the markets and trying to figure out what makes sense from a construction standpoint, but hoping to break ground next year if possible.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry. No questions from the no more questions from the public, no more questions from commissioners. And can you reaffirm exactly what you were looking for today from the commission?
So we are looking for a letter of support from the ANC within our public space applications.
Perfect. Would any Commissioner Arbuckle, no, this is your SMD. Would you like to make a motion for this?
Yes, I would happily like to move to support the to support this proposal as written. Is that the proper wording?
Yes, we understood you.
Okay.
Can Commissioner Arbuckle get a second on this motion?
Second.
Second by was that Commissioner Cobb? Yep. Okay, second by Commissioner Cobb. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. We'll get you that letter of support. We'll work with Commissioner Arbuckle to make sure that you get that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. We did really good on time. We did really good on time tonight. We have community feedback and questions and adjournment. Okay, this is opportunity for any residents to ask questions directly to the commission. Feel free to use the Q&A function to drop your question, or if you're a senior, go ahead and use the raise your hand function so we can allow you to speak on any matters pertaining to tonight's meeting, or or anything regarding your single member district in your neighborhood. I have one question from the public. As a community member, if I disagree with the commission's supportive projects, what's the proper way to disagree? Depending on what kind of project you're referencing, if it's a zoning matter, we always take that through our zoning committee. So that's a beautiful way for you to join the conversation, to give your feedback and provide your input on that matter. Other stuff, we always try to include a link to certain items in the agenda when we give you a 7-day notice. So you are able to actually review what we will be discussing and voting on. And those 7 days are really a great opportunity for you to reach out to your commissioner or an ANC commissioner that happened to draft something, a resolution, a letter of support, and speak with them about the item at hand. Those are great 7 days for you to go ahead and do that. Because by the time we come to tonight to a public meeting, majority of the stuff we've already discussed, whether it's in a committee meeting or the committee of a whole, which we hold at the end of the month prior to every public meeting. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to engage us. I guess what you need to just be aware of is the timing. When when to engage, not just what to engage, but when to engage. So if there's something specific that you see that we'll be voting on or discussing or presenting on, take advantage of that time before we get to the meeting to discuss it with the ANC commissioner or myself as the chair. Could you please share that information again, because these development projects are not really reflective of community needs realistically. I don't know how to comment on that. You have to be very specific, but you can always follow up in an email on a specific matter. Just so you're aware, especially in Union Market, there are a lot of projects that are going through phases, and some of these phases started off with the commission years ago. So we might be at a certain phase of the project and discussing and voting on it now compared to stuff that's already been happened then. But Commissioner May, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, I think what you said, Commissioner Soseda Guzman, about engaging your commissioner, the person who represents your single member district, about matters that are coming before the commission is a great way to ensure that you learn more about their view on a particular issue and have the opportunity to present your view. I've had several residents reach out to me ahead of votes based on what was on our agenda to share their perspective, to encourage me to vote for something or against something. And I think it's valuable to hear that perspective. Your single member district representative could also be someone to discuss issues with. And I think it's very helpful to us to hear that perspective from you. So definitely encourage it.
Absolutely. Thank you for reiterating that. And another way for you to join the conversation is to become an ANC commissioner. We're not here forever. We serve 2-year terms, and the ANC madness is bound to begin again next June, July. So if this is something that you might be interested in, maybe allowing some of my colleagues right now to kick up their feet finally, feel free to ask questions. And next year specifically, as you know, as some of y'all know, we have committees open. So next year specifically, if you are interested in the ANC and don't want to be too fresh, if you happen to become an ANC, join a committee, reach out to your ANC commissioner, reach out to me. I'm the chair for the commission. We always appreciate help, and I think DC proverb is pretty simple when it means it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So we might all be talking about the same stuff, but depending on how we're saying it, we might be able to come together and actually work on something. So I can allow my colleagues to make comments on that, but just so residents, neighbors, and commissioners are aware, our next ANC meeting is slated to be in person at our ANC community room located in Union Market at 371 Moore Street Northeast. And it's going to be a very resourceful themed meeting. So, and we invited some big names to come and join us. So we'll see the response to that. But get engaged and especially come out next month to ask some questions, to maybe even meet some of us if we don't happen to live in your specific part of the neighborhood. But definitely get engaged. Any other community questions or feedback from folks before I ask for an adjournment? Commissioners, is there anything else that we should address before I make a motion to adjourn? Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We did really great on time. At this point in time, I will ask that I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:35 p.m. Can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by, who was that?
It was me.
Commissioner Arbuckle? Oh, Commissioner
May.
May, sorry.
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner May. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Oh, I think a cat said nay. The motion carries. Everyone, please be safe. Enjoy the rest of your night. If there's any questions, feel free to follow up with me directly or your ANC commissioner.